an informal debate on collaboration with other professionals focused on restraint and seclusion. Our outline goes as follows. So we'll start with the introduction, then discuss our first main point, which is restraint, effectiveness, and safety. Then they'll discuss client dignity and outcomes and go on to talking about the last main point, which is effective alternative interventions, followed out by the conclusion and answering questions from our professor. The roles of our group members are the parents, who will act as the moderators, which are Diana Lasanta and Alexis Kishimoto. And then there'll be the school team, who are pro-restraint and seclusion, which are Anna Ernest, who will act as the teacher, and Francine Barrett, the teacher aide, versus the ABA team, who is con-restraint and seclusion, which consists of Nathan Cox, who will act as the BCBA, and Jasmine Francis, who will act as the BCABA. So here's the background information of the case scenario our group created. The BCBA received a new client, Johnny, who engages in dangerous behaviors during school. When asked to do his work on assignments during class, he will attempt to flip his desk over and may try to throw his chair. After witnessing this occurrence numerous times, the school has had to use physical restraint to take him to a separate room where other students are not in danger. The BCBA had conducted a functional assessment and had reason to believe the function of his behavior is escape. The ABA team wants to implement functional communication training and teach Johnny to ask to leave the room rather than flipping his desk and escalating to a point where restraint is necessary. However, the school team believes that this will not work and has no interest in considering the use of another less intrusive intervention strategy, as the school team does not want to increase the chances of the other students being put in danger or harm. Thus, the school team prefers to use restraint immediately when they see precursor behaviors to target behaviors of throwing his chair and flipping his desk. The ABA team is following the Ethical Code 2.09 of involving clients and stakeholders, which are the parents and the teachers, in developing the behavior change plan for Johnny's target behaviors. And the ABA team is also following the Code 2.10 of collaborating with colleagues by collaborating with the school team to create the most beneficial and effective behavior change plan for Johnny.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to this team meeting today. As you all know, we're here to discuss Johnny's behaviors in the classroom. My aide, Francine, and I have noticed that his behavior of throwing his chair and flipping his desk have been causing a disruption in the classroom for him and the other students. We wanted to have this meeting so that we could all come together as a team to find the best solution for Johnny.
Is it me?
No, it's Diana. Is your mic not working?
Yeah, we can't hear you, Diana.
I read your lips. Did you hear it? Did you say can you hear me now?
No.
Oh. Yes. No.
No.
Well, so far it sounded great.
And no, you guys were awesome. It was good.
I wonder if we can edit this video if it ends up being pretty good.
I really think we can.
Yeah. Because we might be able to just cut out the sections that we have to.
Well, it's funny. Last semester, I think it was last semester, we literally used a specific website in which each of us recorded our own parts and we put it all together. So, yeah.
Okay.
So it was a lot easier. I don't remember. Maybe I can find it, but it was a lot easier.
I've done that before where I've added YouTube videos to slides. So it was like, but you added them just with the sound or like just the audio. And then as you change the slide for the presentation, like it auto plays the next voice.
Oh, that's good. That'll be so easy.
Okay.
I honestly was like, oh, today's gonna be a breeze. Everything's gonna go great.
I know the biggest issue is just technology.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right. Welcome back, Diana.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. All right.
So you hear me?
thinking,
okay. I don't know what happened.
Maybe we can like edit out like that period of time and like keep going even, you know?
If we can do that, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So hold on. Just give me a second.
Yeah, I mean, all good at this point.
Okay. All right. So just start.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute.
All right. I'll go ahead and start when everyone's muted. So why does he engage in problem behaviors? Like, can you just help us understand why he's throwing his desk and his chairs at school?
So everyone engages in certain behaviors to communicate a need or a want. Sometimes the behaviors that we engage in are socially acceptable, and sometimes they're just problematic. In an article by Wallace and Lavina, they outline that problematic behaviors occur because the person engaging in the behaviors their needs are not being heard. So here's an example. Say you're talking with someone and they don't understand what you're saying, you might get frustrated and scream at them. Even in arguments, when the other person's not getting our point of view, we might get physical with them.
Exactly. And all of our behaviors have a function to them. Some functions they're usually categorized into 4 main categories. They're escape, attention, access to tangibles, and automatic reinforcement. The intervention that we designed as an ABA team depends on what the function of the behavior is for that child. In the field, we use different assessments to understand the function of behaviors. And after conducting an assessment for Johnny, we've determined that the function of his behavior seems to be escape. So in other words, he is throwing his chair and flipping his desk to try to get out of doing something, and in this case, doing his schoolwork. With that in mind, we believe that teaching Johnny how to ask for breaks through functional communication training will be the best way to address his behavior.
Yes, and we've taken into account the function of his behavior, and we've determined that we still need to use restraint and seclusion here at school.
I'm not too familiar with these terms. What is restraint and what is seclusion? Can you go into more detail on what restraint and seclusion are?
Yeah, of course. So in the next slide, or coming up, I'm going to show you guys a table. We're going to focus on restraint and seclusion specifically. Restraint is, there's 3 types of restraint: physical, mechanical, and chemical. So restraint is interventions restricting.
Sorry.
His intervention which generally, so here you go. So let's start with physical. It prevents free movement by applying force to a person's body. Mechanical is a type of physical restraint that introduces tools such as straps, belts, and helmets to restrict free movement. Chemical restraint uses a big word for me to pronounce at this moment, means to control a person's behavior and movement outside of any standard treatment for their psychiatric or medical condition. And then seclusion, which is the last term we're going to focus on, is the involuntary confinement of a person in a room or in an area where the person is physically prevented from leaving.
That is a very helpful table that shows the definition clearly. I just want to clarify that here at Southgrade Elementary, we use restraint and seclusion when a student is engaging in dangerous behavior by having the aides and paraprofessionals physically hold the client and remove them from the classroom and then taking the student to a separate room with no students. That's what we call the cool down room.
So there are some reasons that we think using restraint might be a bit of an ethical problem for us. So we have a bit of a breakdown of how we can handle this situation. So first, we'd identify an ethical dilemma. And so far, us as the BCBA team here, we believe that using physical restraint with Johnny is impeding some of his freedom. And so I think we need to brainstorm some solutions and look at some of the codes that might suggest what we can do to improve his situation. So we'll consider some situations like his safety, client outcomes for him, what the family here prefers, and especially, what would be most effective at school, and how it might even impact other professionals who have to engage in restraining him. After we've come to some kind of acceptable solution, then we can talk about how we'll be able to implement that procedure with fidelity, meaning we'll be able to keep it as consistent as possible across all the staff, and we'll make sure we carefully document everything we do. And after we have that all prepared, we'll kind of go back over everything and make sure we're all on the same page.
Thank you, Nathan. That helps me and my partner kind of understand what we're going to do moving forward in this meeting. I just had a question for one of the teachers or the teacher aide, and that was just, I was wondering why you need to use both restraint and seclusion with Johnny.
Well, we have to use restraint for Johnny because when he starts to lift his desk or throw his chair, other kids are put in danger. We use restraint to ensure both Johnny and his classmates are safe.
Exactly. If we weren't allowed to use restraint and seclusion with Johnny, then we might not be able to keep him in a classroom with the other kids. I previously read a 2011 article by Vollmer and a 2019 article by Pertussin and Eldavik that mentioned that dangerous behaviors can lead to a child not being able to participate in a classroom setting or in their community. So if we don't have restraints as an option, then Johnny might end up having to leave the general education classroom.
Oh, I see. But does it actually work to get him to stop throwing his chairs?
I don't think Jasmine is in here right now.
I was about to say we lost Jasmine.
Damn. Yep, she said, keep going, I'll log back in. Well, I guess we'll just wait. Maybe we'll be able to piece it together with like some good editing. Is anyone good at video editing?
My fiance is.
Okay, I can employ him.
I'll ask him to piece it together and see how it turns out. And then like if we think that's good and y'all are okay with turning that in, we can do that, or we can just do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. I think it's going pretty decent apart from, just technical difficulty.
Yeah.
I think it'll go pretty smooth. We're at about I'd say 10 minutes, counting just taking 4 minutes off to be generous.
Yeah. I'm trying to elaborate a little bit on the parent part too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of kill more time.
Hey, please do.
Yeah, I think anything to make it sound a little more natural.
Mm-hmm.
Does it, when I'm reading, does it sound really scripted?
No,
No,
I don't think so far.
Okay, just let me know if it starts to.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's.
Can someone send the link? I think she's asking for it and I don't have it.
I'll send
I
it.
put it in the document. If you go into this script, it's at the very top on the front page.
Okay.
So
I
it's in
just
there.
sent it in the group me as well.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
sent
Okay.
it already.
Thank you. Now I lost my page. Okay.
You guys hear me?
All right, there you are.
Sorry.
Okay.
You
Okay.
need to watch it
You're
because I'm
good.
clicking mute, and then instead of clicking mute, I put leave student.
I did that too.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's a really good question. No, restraint and seclusion won't necessarily get Johnny to stop throwing chairs. This is part of the reason why we need to evaluate how restraint and seclusion are being used in the classroom. As BCBAs, we are bound by the ethics code to provide effective treatment as well as advocate for appropriate services. This means providing treatment based on scientific evidence that will provide the best outcomes, not only for Johnny, but for the teachers, you at home, and everyone in Johnny's surroundings.
Jasmine makes a really good point. It's possible that the restraint may even be encouraging Johnny's behavior. In 2004, there was a study by Wallace and Levine where a young man would scream and hurt himself and others. And after doing this, the staff would provide him a blanket that helped him to calm down. And what ended up happening was this young man ended up screaming and doing these other dangerous things so that he could get the blanket. So we think that Johnny might be doing something similar where he's throwing his desk and engaging in these dangerous behaviors so that he's able to leave the room. So this is kind of an inappropriate way of asking to get out of the room.
At this point, we just don't really have a better option. Even if that somehow causes Johnny to act out, what else can we do? It's not like we can allow him to endanger others in the classroom like the other students or the teachers. That 2011 Vollmer article mentions that even if restraint isn't something that everyone knows how to use effectively, it shouldn't be completely ruled out or be banned from use. That article also mentions that restraint may even be the most effective intervention at times. So I believe it's something that we should still use.
Well, it's true that sometimes restraint is necessary and it may be the most effective, but we're still concerned that not everyone involved in the restraint procedure is properly trained to use it. So there's a 2007 article by Ryan and others. The authors state that without the common guidelines and standards, there's an increased chance that restraint can be used improperly. So that could lead to harm and potentially even abuse of Johnny. So we don't want any sort of dangerous situation to arise, even accidentally. And we're not saying that that's happening, but it is a big concern of ours. And it's part of my job and my ethical responsibility as a BCBA to address potential conditions in the environment that might even interfere with or prevent us from providing services to him. So in our eyes, the use of restraint appears to be a potential barrier to Johnny's treatment, and we don't want him unintentionally hurt or to reduce the effectiveness of any treatment we may provide. So that's kind of why we suggest not using restraint.
I don't want Johnny to be hurt either, especially since Johnny has some difficulty trying to tell us how he feels at times. I'm a little worried about using restraint since he doesn't have that way to tell us if he's being hurt or not.
And I totally understand that. I understand where you and Alexis are coming from. I have the same concerns as well when trying to develop the most effective treatment plan for Johnny. I read a 2018 article by Friedman and Crabb that discusses how restraint can limit the freedom, dignity, and personal choice of the client, which is what you were mentioning as a concern.
Adding to what Jasmine said, using physical interventions such as restraint can even be upsetting to the staff. So apart from the potential danger it can pose to Johnny, it can also cause some issues with people who have to use the restraints. So both Fish and Cushaw's 2005 article and Friedman and Crabb's 2018 article have discussed how some staff found implementing physical restraints left them feeling very guilty. It caused feelings of self-condemnation, and at times they even found it to be traumatic to have to implement those interventions. So not only can restraint be dangerous when it's used improperly, but it can also be emotionally distressing to the staff. So it's important to remember that just because Johnny has some trouble communicating doesn't mean that he deserves any unfair treatment. And similarly, the staff shouldn't have to deal with these difficult feelings or feelings of guilt, regret, anything like that. So we worry that using it improperly, using restraint improperly, may even be singling him out and discriminating against him due to his impairment. Just because he has this disability doesn't make it okay to use. It's part of our duty as BCBAs to be responsible to our clients. So that means supporting their rights and making sure we don't cause harm and maximizing the benefit of our intervention. We need to keep Johnny's rights in mind as well.
To me, that doesn't make sense. I would hate to cause Johnny and other staff any unneeded stress or harm. We still need a way to keep Johnny and other kids safe. I read this article that mentioned that some positive experience participant had with seclusion. LaRue and others used a questionnaire and asked participants about what they found helpful after seclusion. Some participants found it gave them time to calm down, rest, or avoid doing things they might regret. So maybe we could still take him to a separate room when he needs to calm down. The issue is that when he's upset, we can't get him to listen.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense about what Nathan said about restraint and his concerns on that. And I really like Francine's point about seclusion. So it sounds to me like seclusion is a better choice than restraint. What do you guys think?
Well, both procedures ensure the safety of others around them. Compared to restraint, seclusion can be a more acceptable option for addressing problematic behaviors. There was a 2018 study by Krieger and others that showed that when they asked the participants whether they preferred restraint or seclusion, the participants responded that seclusion was their preferred treatment. So when compared with restraint, seclusion may be an acceptable and more preferred choice.
So if seclusion is a better option for you and for Johnny, then it's one that we will take into consideration. Because when it comes to providing services, it's our ethical code to involve the client, Johnny, as well as you guys who are considered the stakeholders in this process. Lastly, seclusion has shown those who have been secluded had a more positive viewpoint. They've come to have felt better after seclusion. Plus, it was considered safe and secure. These were found from Cheese and other 2019 studies.
I think after hearing both of the points that each of you guys made, I do feel more comfortable using seclusion instead of restraint with Johnny at school. I was just wondering if using seclusion by itself, is that enough to get him to stop throwing his chairs and all the other problem behaviors he has at school?
Not necessarily. So neither restraint nor seclusion would be maybe effective by itself. There's a 2011 article by Volmar that says that restraint and seclusion need to be used as part of a comprehensive behavior intervention plan. So in other words, we need to develop a full plan for reducing Johnny's problem behavior and teaching him appropriate ways to communicate rather than just, taking him to a different room or calming him down. We need some ways that teach him proper ways to ask to leave.
Oh, that's yeah, I see. That sounds really interesting. So what would you suggest we used with seclusion then?
It's important to consider the function of the behavior when choosing a replacement behavior and an intervention. We have already completed a functional assessment and found that Johnny's property destruction is maintained by escape. In other words, we have reason to believe that Johnny tries to throw his desk because he's usually allowed to leave the room after he does that. For this reason, we recommend using functional communication training, or FCT, to teach Johnny to use his words to escape instead of his problem behaviors. Just briefly, functional communication training is basically when we teach a client an appropriate way to communicate what they want. So in the case of Johnny, we would teach him how to ask to leave the room before he starts throwing his desk. After he asks appropriately, maybe raising his hand and telling the teacher, I want to leave, then we will take him to the quiet room or cool down room where he can calm down.
That was a good way to explain it, Jasmine. There's some research from 2019 by Peterson and Eldavik where a 30-year-old male with autism and intellectual impairment was being restrained for 145 minutes a week for about 23 weeks. It was ongoing. So this was before the researchers put in a intervention for functional communication training. So after the intervention was put in place, this client who was in restraint for about 145 minutes a week, his time in restraint was reduced to 52 minutes a week. And then after a 12-month follow-up following the functional communication training, the client was only restrained for 5 minutes a week. So there is some research out there that shows that FCT can effectively reduce time in restraint. So, there's reason to believe it could be effective for Johnny.
It's very important that we provide Johnny with an effective treatment that is based on scientific evidence and ensures everyone involved is protected from any kind of harm. When we are selecting, designing, and implementing interventions to change the behavior, we ensure we use methods based on our assessments that we prioritize teaching new skills as opposed to simply using punishments, and that our interventions are tailored specifically for our client, in this case for Johnny. Given our assessments, we do think FCT would be a very good option.
Okay, I really like the sound of this FCT because I think it'd be great for him to learn how to use his words more, and he can use it at home too. I was just wondering, Miss Anna, is this something you think you could use in your classroom?
It is something we could use in the classroom. My concern is that using FCT in the classroom typically requires training and monitoring to make sure that it's being implemented correctly. So if an individual's behavior is severe, such as in the case of Johnny, it's highly likely that multiple staff are going to need to be trained, which can be really costly and time consuming.
Actually, we can provide free online training and send the FCT protocol we created for Johnny. You're always welcome to reach out to the RBT and myself as we are always an available resource as well.
Oh, wow. I really didn't know such resources exist. I will definitely communicate more with the RBT when Johnny behaviors are more than I can handle alone. Having his FTC protocol will also help me and Anna know how to address Johnny's behavior as the ABA team suggests.
It seems that you guys have come to some agreement, but I'm a little confused. Can you explain what the plan for Johnny is moving forward? Are we sticking with the restraint and seclusion, or just seclusion, or are we doing what the DC suggested, or both?
That's a good question, Alexis, and I'd be glad to clarify for you. So according to a 2011 article by Volmar, restraint and seclusion can be used properly when it is part of a comprehensive plan. So after speaking with Johnny's teachers and you, both of his parents, we do believe that we can add seclusion as a part of his FCT intervention plan. So he'd be able to ask to leave the room, so he could choose to go to a quieter space where he has time to calm down and maybe get away from things that are potentially bothering him in the classroom. And we'll teach him some appropriate ways to be able to leave. What do you all think?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me as well.
I agree.
So I think we're on board with trying that.
Oh, that sounds really good. Thank you for clarifying all of that for me. I appreciate how this plan is combining FCT with seclusion and is less intrusive than restraints, but it sounds like it would reduce him throwing his chair and table but at the same time keep the other students in the class safe and out of harm. So I think that Diana and I would agree with me when I say that this seems like a great plan for Johnny. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I definitely agree with the conclusion that we came into with using seclusion FCT. I'm really excited to see how Johnny's behavior will change with this new plan.
So how do I segue into this? I probably should have asked before we started.
That's okay.
You can say that was the end of our thing. I don't know. That's it.
And
Just kind of like take on the moderator role now.
Yeah, it's like that's the
yeah, I
end
think that's
for
okay.
let's answer these questions.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so that was the end of our debate. The last thing that we want to do is go over a couple of questions and see what the other people in our group have to say. So our first question is, how can BCBAs talk to clients about the use of seclusion and restraints so that they can make an informed decision about treatment?
I'll answer that one. So when BCBAs are providing information regarding treatment plans, they should make sure that they're following the code for behavior analysts and consider the reliance on scholarly literature. So they should involve clients in the decision making too, and objectively describe the treatment. So in this case, restraint or seclusion, and include what it might look like and other factors that the client and stakeholder preference, the least restrictive environment, and alternative interventions they could use. So BCBAs should approach these discussions by providing the client with information that isn't biased on benefits unbiased information on the benefits and risks of restraint and seclusion. Man, I botched that one.
No, those are some great recommendations. Our next question is, well, I guess my next question is that I'd like to know if anyone has any personal experience with this topic that they would like to share.
Yeah, I can answer that one. So at the agency I work for, we do services in home, in clinic, and at the school. So I have a lot of personal experiences that I can share, but we will be here all day. So the case scenario that we did for our debate was actually modeled after an experience that I had working with the kiddo at a school, where his special ed teacher wanted to only use restraint and seclusion and was not really listening to what me or my BCBA was trying to do with the client. But after we provided some resources to her and told her why exactly what she was doing is not effective in reducing his problem behaviors, she kind of understood and was able to accept the seclusion and kind of hold back on the restraint. And now he was doing a lot better. And we're still continuing to use the FCT and seclusion with him at school.
Thank you for sharing that, Diana. That was really informative. I don't know where to go from here. We probably should have written an end to this.
Yeah, we might need a definitive end. Thanks everyone for watching.
Tune in next time.
I can't with Diana. I should have shared all my stories. We'll be here all day. I wanted to come back so hard.
Yeah, I mean, we would be here all day. I think just ending it with saying thank you for watching and just have a nice evening or whatever. Have a good day would be enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All right.
Does anybody want to say it or?
Sure. Wait, what did you say? Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it, and we hope you guys have a great day.
All right. So I guess when I end this, so here I'll end it.